Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ellie, and on this channel, I cover topics about personal growth, balance, healthy habits, routines, and so much more. In this video, I want to just have a little chat. I want to talk about this concept of letting go of people that are no good for us. In other words, perhaps people that are toxic for us, or just people that we feel uneasy around, right? Like someone that just deep down in our intuition or in our gut feelings, we just don't feel right about these type of people. And the reason I want to talk about this is because there are often times in our life where we come across really awesome people, we really hit it off, and then we take it to the next level, perhaps, of establishing a friendship with this person, maybe because we just feel that deep connection with them. And there are other people in our lives where we sort of have just carried them through different phases of our life. So, for example, maybe we met them when we were in high school or just when we were younger, and we sort of have grown up or gone through different phases of our life while knowing them. Not necessarily that they have like super contributed to our growth, but as we have grown, as we have progressed through our life, we just sort of knew them, and maybe at one point it stopped being this friendship that was really beneficial for either of the parties involved. So, there are different ways in which we can have these friendships, whether them being new, spontaneous, yet organic ones, or some that it's been that way for a long time. We have this label of friends because we once put this label on the relationship, but maybe now we don't really encompass what a true friendship is. And I feel like for me, I've gone through several phases in my life where I just fall apart, or like I drift apart from certain people because we just are different now. It's not necessarily that that person is good or bad, or we're a bad match in terms of friendship. Sometimes we're just different, or depending on the phase of life that you're going through, you just don't align anymore. That doesn't mean that you aren't going to in the future, but for me, I have observed that my life goes in phases. And depending on that phase, I'm just going to have a different mentality, different sets of values, perhaps a different way of thinking. And that's okay. Like, that's just the human progression. But I've also noticed that there are times that a different type of person can aid that new phase that you're currently in, right? They can contribute to your growth. They can amplify your growth. Whereas your other set of people that were there before don't really satisfy your growth, or nurture your growth anymore. I guess I've been thinking a lot about this idea of losing friends along the way and gaining new ones, and trying to understand from a personal level why that has happened. And it's complicated, right? Because you never want to say, if you're in a situation where you have lost friendships, it's never one person's fault, right? Or maybe fault isn't the right word. Like, sometimes it is the fault of someone that a friendship falls out, right? But sometimes it's not really this fault that has to be placed on someone. Sometimes it is just like you drift apart, and that's okay. But what I do want to talk about more in depth is that sometimes there are people that are just not good for you anymore. At one point, we always have to ask ourselves whether this friendship is serving us or not. And the reason I say that is because there comes a time in your life where you really learn to protect your energy and your time more, because those are two very precious and valuable resources. And at one point in your life, you sort of think about that more. You sort of realize you can't really be doing everything. You can't be everywhere. You can't be saying yes to every opportunity or every time someone invites you to go out. You just can't, because at one point you have to really make a decision as to what's worth your time, your energy, your money, perhaps, and whether you'll feel good after having done that, after having said yes to that. I feel like I'm definitely in that phase in my life now where I am more critical of the things I say yes to. How can we identify when someone is not good for us? I think there's a lot of different cues or signs, and I'm not going to encompass everything in this video. From my experience and some of the things that I have read in terms of, how to identify whether a person cares about you or is good to have in your life. And one of the things that I've read about, and I definitely agree with, is having someone that is truly happy for you. Not just someone that is happy for you when you are accomplishing things that match their accomplishments, but even when someone is happy for you when you accomplish things that perhaps can be viewed as a slightly larger accomplishment than they have accomplished. So what I mean by that is, in friendships, like, you're going to evolve separately and together. And a lot of times, say you as an individual can go through a moment where you are just accomplishing things that maybe the other person didn't, perhaps because they just didn't want to. But say perhaps you get into, you land a really good job that pays well, and it's probably paying more than this person is getting paid. So that's one way in which maybe it, from the outside perspective, it can be seen as a larger accomplishment than them, even though it doesn't mean it's true, because maybe this person doesn't value money more than you, right? But just as an example, just for the sake of having an example. And there's going to be times in your life where you're hitting milestones and maybe that person isn't, or isn't hitting as many milestones in their life, but yet that person is happy for you. That is a sign of a good friendship. And you know why? Because it's hard. It's hard to be happy for someone when they're doing better than you. It takes a lot of love and care for that person to put aside like resentments or envy or feel any negative feelings of negative emotion. And it's interesting because a lot of times we like look super down on these feelings, like, oh my god, this person's super envious and they're being a hater and this and that. But the reality is that we are all capable of those feelings. We are all capable of resentment and envy and hate. We all have the capacity to feel that, and we all have felt that at different times in our life, because we're human and we're imperfect. And when someone possesses that personal, like that self-control to contain those feelings of what otherwise can manifest as resentment or bitterness, and they contain that to be happy for you, that is a great person. That is a really great person. That is a really great friend, because it's not easy. I know that I personally have been in situations where I've been very bitter and sad and insecure because I'm not happy. Like, there's been times where I haven't been happy as to where I am in life. And it definitely happened to me that I felt like it was kind of hard to be happy for anyone. I'm not talking about only friends, I'm talking about in general. Like, I remember logging onto my social media at like maybe like 2 years ago is the moment I'm talking about, and seeing like other people get after their goals and their passions and their dreams. And I remember being in a situation where I wasn't doing that. I was so unhappy with where I was in life. This was when I was pursuing my PhD, and I actually posted a video about me quitting my PhD if you're interested in that. But anyway, point being, I remember being in those moments of fury and anger and like confusion and feeling like, what the hell am I doing with my life? Why am I so unhappy? Why am I so ungrateful? Like, this is such a great opportunity, which led to more anger and self-deprecation. And when you're in that headspace, it's so hard to be happy for anyone. I think because I've gone through those feelings of negativity and insecurity and bitterness and resentment, not toward anyone in specific, but just like mad at the world in general. I know that it's really hard to be happy for someone when maybe they're doing something that you perceive to be better than what you're doing. And why now, coming out of that, I mean, I've been out of that space for a couple of years, but I remember those feelings and I understand that we're all capable of feeling them. And so when I say that when someone is truly happy for your accomplishments and you genuinely feel that, don't take that for granted. And on the other end, use this as a reference point for when you do share good news with people, with your friends, like people that you think are your friends, and they sort of brush over your accomplishments, and they take that as a chance to talk about something they've done or they've accomplished, and they sort of belittle your accomplishment. I get it if someone does it once or twice, people are distracted, things happen, but if this is a consecutive thing that's happening in a relationship that you have, be wary of that. So on one end, someone that roots for you at every milestone, at every accomplishment, that is a good person. Someone that doesn't, be careful. On the other end, when you're down, when you're low, a good friend is there for you. However, don't expect a good friend to guess where you're at, how you're feeling. We also have the responsibility to come to our people and share and open up and let it be known that we're struggling. People can't guess what's going on in our mind. I would argue that a good friend knows you well enough that they know when something's up. However, it's not clear to me that it's 100% their responsibility, right? Because sometimes maybe you don't see that person often. Maybe your communication is mainly via your phone, right? So it can be a little bit harder to pick up on whether or not that person's going through rough times. But when you do disclose this to a close friend and they are there for you and they don't talk about how their life has also been crap, they let you sit with your moment and they don't try to talk about moments in their life that were worse than this one. They just let you have that moment. That is indicative of a good friend. And again, there are so many other ways. There are so many other ways of telling if a person is a good friend. But I think for me, I wanted to touch on those two main ones because I had heard it in a podcast and it really resonated with me. And I thought, it's so easy to put the blame on others, like, oh, this person's being a bad friend, like you drop people left and right, but also take time to reflect on whether you are being a good friend, right? Whether you are taking time to congratulate your friends for their accomplishments, for their milestones, whether you make sure you're making them feel important and special and giving them your attention, and whether or not when someone does come to you with negative things happening in their life, when people do come to you with problems, with issues that they're going through, and you don't take that as an opportunity to dump all your problems on them. Are you doing that? Am I doing that? I know that's something I have to work on personally, because I used to think, oh, the way to make this person feel better is by reminding them like, oh, it could be worse. But that's not the right way. Even though we have good intentions, I think the best thing is to be there for a person in the good and the bad and elevate them even higher when they're feeling good. Try our best to elevate them when they're down here and not feeling very good, but also just giving them the space to talk about why they're feeling that way. So those are just some of the things that I've been sort of pondering about regarding friendships and whether or not there are people in my life that do possess those characteristics of uplifting me when I'm up and listening to me when I'm down, and whether or not I've been doing that for people. And if you just pay attention to those two things, it really will give you a lot of clarity as to who your real friends are and as to whether you're being a real friend. I feel like these two things can be a good starting point of identifying those people that are good in our lives and those that are not. Who is celebrating your milestones with you, and who isn't taking your bad moment to talk about them, to bring up their bad moments. So let me know what you think in the comment section. Let me know if you can relate to this, or what else you would add in terms of, there's so many things we can add in terms of what makes up a bad friend, what makes up a good friend. Go ahead and share any of your stories down below in the comment section. And with that being said, please like this video if you liked it. Please subscribe to my channel. Go ahead and watch my other videos while you wait for me to post the next one. Bye.